The black SUV rolled through the tall gate of Donald's group on Victoria Island. Cameras flashed. Guards stood straight. People whispered, "That's the new CEO." A thin woman stepped into the road and waved with both hands. Her wrapper was torn. Her slippers were old. Her eyes were red from crying. "Johnathan, please," she said, voice shaking. "Help me." He looked out from the back seat in a dark blue suit. The man who once wore a faded t-shirt to work now looked like a king. He knew that face. He knew that voice. It was Sophia, his wife, who once threw him out like trash when she won $10 million. The driver touched the brake. The guards rushed forward. Should Johnathan open the door? Or should he let the car roll past her forever? Before that shocking morning, there was a small one-room apartment in Ajegunle, and a stubborn door that always groaned. The air smelled like kerosene, pepper, and hope. Johnathan slept on a thin mattress on the floor and woke up at 4 a.m. to the sound of generators and Danfo horns. He had a university degree in economics, but life was not fair yet. He could not find a job after many interviews. So he worked as a security guard at a biscuit factory. He checked ID cards, opened gates, and waved buses in and out. He stood for long hours under the sun. At night, he rubbed his feet and told himself, "It will not be like this forever." Sophia was his sunshine. For 5 years of marriage, they had no child, but she tied her wrapper, smiled at him, and made their small place feel full. She always packed his lunch in a clean plastic bowl and said, "Eat well, my love." When people laughed at them, she held his hand and said, "We will rise." But poverty is loud. It talks every day. It talks when the landlord knocks. It talks when the price of rice goes up. It talks when rain drips into a cooking pot. One afternoon, Johnathan counted the last small money in his wallet and pressed it into Sophia's palm. "Buy pepper, onion, small fish," he said. "Let me taste your jollof rice tonight." She nodded. "I will manage it. Don't worry." That same day, a neighbor told her, "There is a promo at the betting shop. Just try small. Maybe luck will smile." Sophia knew the money was for food, but the thought would not leave her head. What if I turn this small money into something big? What if I help us both? She took a tiny part, so small she believed it did not count, and placed a bet. She pressed the line of numbers with fast fingers and a faster heart. Then she went home, cooked jollof with what was left, and prayed. Night fell. The TV in the joint down the street shouted with music and bright lights. People screamed. The anchor lifted a card and called a winning number. Another card, and another. Sophia's heart beat fast. The neighbor screamed, your numbers are there." Then the final card rose. She won. Not small money. Not even $1 million, $10 million. Her legs shook. Her palms turned cold. People jumped and danced around her. Someone filmed it. In seconds, her face was on every phone in the street. The betting company posted it online. The clip ran on the evening news. A camera caught her hugging strangers, crying, laughing, asking if she was dreaming. At the biscuit factory gate, Johnathan was checking a delivery truck when the staff canteen TV blasted. Breaking news, Lagos woman wins $10 million. The screen showed Sophia's face, his wife, his joy, his life. The announcer said her name. The workers shouted. Someone clapped Johnathan on the back. Your wife. A driver yelled, You are rich now. Johnathan dropped the gate chain and ran. He ran past stalls. He ran past buses. He ran until his chest burned. His mind was full of light. He turned into their street, then stopped. 2 shiny cars were parked outside their compound. Men in suits stood near the door. The landlord, who never greeted him before, wore a wide smile. Neighbors crowded around like it was a festival. Sophia came out in a new gown and high heels that clicked on the floor like they were teaching him a new song. She did not hug him. She did not rush into his arms. She carried his old bag, stepped into the open, and threw it at his feet. Johnathan, she said, loud and clear. We are not on the same level anymore. The crowd gasped. The world shook. The bag hit the ground and burst open. His shirts fell into the dust. His only good belt rolled to the gutter. Sophia, he whispered. What are you doing? She lifted her chin. I bought this house today. I will bring it down next week and build my dream home here. You are bad luck. You are my past. My new life cannot carry you. His knees gave way. He knelt on the dirty floor, clutching the torn bag. His hands shook. "Sophia, remember our vows." She looked away. "Those vows were for poor people dreams. I am big now. Please," he said, voice breaking. "We are one. We were hungry together. Don't throw me away now." She pointed at the street. "Out. You are my wife." "I was your wife," she snapped and pushed him toward the gate. "Leave." The door slammed. The sound rang like a bell. It was the sound of something breaking, maybe a heart, maybe a home. Rain began to fall. The crowd drifted inside. The landlord locked the gate behind him. Johnathan picked up his things in the rain. Then he stood there alone, soaked, watching water wash the dust from his old shoes. Night painted the city dark. Johnathan walked to the bus stop, with his bag dragging like a stone. He could go to a friend's house. He could sleep at the church. He could sit in the factory guardroom and pretend it was fine. But his feet did not go to those places. They turned toward Ikoyi, toward a high white fence he had not seen in years. His father's house. Chief Donald Chukuma, the man who built Donald's group from a small desk and a big dream. A strict father. A loud name. A man who had said, long ago, "This Sophia girl worries me." A man Johnathan ran from when love felt bigger than wisdom. At the gate, the security man blinked. "Ogre Johnathan, I need to see my father," Johnathan said softly. A minute later, the gate opened. Johnathan walked into the quiet compound. He remembered every stone in the path, every tree his mother had planted before she died, bringing him into this world. He remembered leaving this place angry, thinking he knew life. He remembered turning his back on his father's hug. The front door opened. Chief Donald stood there in a simple robe. He had lost weight. The strong lines on his face were deeper, but his eyes still carried that steady light. For a second, neither of them spoke. Then the old man opened his arms. "Welcome home, my son," he said. Johnathan fell into the hug and cried like a child. The housekeeper brought a towel, warm food, and dry clothes. Father and son sat at the dining table that had heard many stories. The clock ticked. Rain hit the windows. "I lost almost everything," Chief Donald said at last. His voice was calm, not bitter. "Investors pulled out. Partners ran. A competitor stole my idea and built it faster than we could. They outclassed us with our own plan." Johnathan looked up. "Stole your idea? How?" The old man's jaw tightened. "Not from outside. From inside. Someone close. Someone with passwords. Someone who sat in my boardroom and smiled." The room felt colder. "Father," Johnathan said, wiping his eyes, "I am sorry for everything. For leaving. For not calling. For choosing noise over your voice. Let me fix this. Let me make it right." Chief Donald studied his son. He saw the dust on his bag. He saw the new crack in his heart. He also saw something new in his eyes, steel. He stood and walked to his study. When he returned, he dropped a thin file on the table. Inside were emails, meeting notes, and a list of names. On the last page, a single word was underlined twice. IDEA. He tapped the file. "If you sleep in this house tonight," he said, "you must wake up a fighter tomorrow. I do not need a boy. I need a man who will walk into fire and come out with my name unburned." Johnathan took a deep breath. He lifted the file with both hands, like it was fragile and powerful at the same time. He felt the weight of his father's eyes. He felt the weight of his own shame turning into purpose. He felt the city outside, big and loud, waiting to see what he would do. He nodded. "Tell me what they stole," he said. "Tell me where to start." Chief Donald leaned closer, voice low. "It began with a deputy who smiled too much and a rival named Williams who never builds his own bricks," he said. "But son, there is more. I think the betrayer is still inside, watching us, right now." The room was quiet except for the soft patter of rain against the windows. Johnathan clutched the file in his hands, staring at the last underlined word, idea. His heart pounded, not just from the shock of his wife's betrayal hours earlier, but from the weight of this new revelation. His father's empire, the legacy he once ran from, was under attack. "Father," he whispered, "if the betrayer is inside, then we can't trust anyone." Chief Donald leaned back in his chair, his face tired but sharp. "That is why I need you. They think you are still the lost son. The boy who ran away for love. No one knows you are back yet. You must move quietly, and you must move fast. Johnathan nodded, but a question burned inside him. Who do you suspect? Donald's jaw tightened. Daniel, my deputy manager. He has access to every email, every file. He was the one who first suggested the new project meetings with Williams's company, saying we could learn from the competition. I didn't listen. I trusted him. The name rolled through Johnathan's mind like thunder. Daniel, his father's right-hand man for years, a man he remembered smiling at family gatherings, clapping him on the back, calling him young master. Could he really have betrayed them? The floor creaked again in the hallway. Johnathan and Donald both turned. A shadow moved, then disappeared. Who's there? Donald barked. The housekeeper stepped into view, clutching a tray. It's just me, sir. I thought you might want tea. Donald's eyes softened. He waved her in, but Johnathan noticed something. Her hands trembled. He leaned close to his father. We need to be careful what we say, even here, he whispered. Donald gave the faintest nod. That night, Johnathan barely slept. He sat at the desk in the guest room, reading through the documents again and again. Emails showed Daniel communicating with unknown addresses late at night. Meeting notes revealed suspicious changes in business plans, but the proof was not enough. They needed something stronger, something undeniable. By morning, Johnathan had an idea. He called an old friend, Inspector Okoro, a retired investigator who once worked with his father during the early days of Donald's group. Okoro, he said when the gruff voice answered, I need your help. It's about my father's company. Someone stole his idea. I think it was Daniel. There was a pause. Then Okoro chuckled. So the prodigal son finally comes home. Good. I warned your father years ago about Daniel's ambition. Meet me at the old warehouse on Marina Road tonight. Bring the files. Johnathan agreed, though his stomach twisted. If Okoro was right, the betrayal ran deeper than he thought. Later that day, Johnathan returned to Donald's office building for the first time in years. The massive glass tower still bore the family name, Donald's group of companies. But inside, the atmosphere was different. Employees moved quickly, avoiding eye contact. The once busy lobby now felt half empty. He took the elevator up to the 12th floor, where Daniel's office was. The door was ajar. Daniel sat at his desk, typing furiously. His phone buzzed, and he grabbed it, speaking in a low tone. Yes, the files are secure. No, he suspects nothing. Williams will have the presentation by Friday. This will finish Donald once and for all. Johnathan's blood ran cold. It was the proof he needed. But if Daniel saw him, the game would be over. Just then, Daniel swiveled in his chair, eyes narrowing at the doorway. Who's there? He demanded. Johnathan froze, his heart hammered. Should he step inside? Should he pretend to be visiting? Or should he run? Before he could decide, a cleaner pushing a mop cart rattled past, blocking the view. Johnathan slipped into the shadows and took the stairs 2 at a time, his mind racing. That evening, he told his father everything. I heard him myself, Johnathan said, pacing the study. He's working with Williams. He's still feeding him information. He called it the final blow. Chief Donald closed his eyes. Pain crossed his face. I trusted him more than a son. And now, his fist slammed against the table. He will destroy us. Johnathan leaned forward. No, father, we will destroy him. Tonight, I'm meeting Okoro. We'll get the evidence. Once we have it, Daniel won't just lose his job, he'll face the law. Donald studied his son for a long moment. Then he placed a hand on his shoulder. You remind me of your mother, he said quietly. She never feared storms. She walked into them. Johnathan swallowed hard, his throat tight. Then I'll walk into this one too. Night came quickly. The rain had stopped, leaving Lagos streets wet and shining with neon light. Johnathan wore a plain jacket and cap, carrying the thin file under his arm. He moved carefully, aware that if Daniel suspected anything, he might already have people watching. At Marina Road, the old warehouse loomed, dark and silent. Inside, a single bulb swung from the ceiling, casting long shadows. Inspector Okoro stepped forward, his face older but his eyes sharp. He gripped Johnathan's hand firmly. You've grown, he said. But the fire in your eyes, yes, that's your father's blood. Johnathan passed him the file. I need you to get into Daniel's laptop, his emails, anything. We need proof. Okoro nodded. Already working on it. I have a contact in the cybercrime unit. By tomorrow, we'll have every mail he ever sent to Williams. Johnathan exhaled, relief mixed with fear. If they succeeded, his father's empire could rise again. If they failed, everything would be lost. Suddenly, the warehouse door creaked. Both men spun around. A tall figure stepped inside. A familiar smirk cut across the man's face. It was Daniel. Looking for me? He asked. His voice dripped with arrogance. Jonathan's blood turned to ice. The warehouse smelled of dust and rust, and the single light bulb swung like a pendulum over Daniel's smirking face. Jonathan's heart raced, but he stood his ground. Daniel clapped slowly, the sound echoing in the hollow space. I should have known the prodigal son would return to the old man's side. Tell me, Johnathan, do you really think you can save him? Donald's empire is finished. Williams owns the market now. And soon he will own the name too. Okoro stepped forward, his jaw tight. You're a fool, Daniel. You sold your boss for crumbs. Do you think men like Williams will ever trust you? Daniel's smirk widened. Williams doesn't need to trust me. He pays me. That's enough. Johnathan clenched his fists. You betrayed the man who fed you, raised you, and trusted you with everything. Do you have no shame? Daniel's eyes flashed. Shame doesn't feed families. Shame doesn't buy power. And you, he pointed at Johnathan with venom. You ran away from all of this for a woman. You were weak then, and you're weak now. You don't deserve the Chukuma name. Okoro's hand hovered near his jacket pocket. Johnathan could tell he was ready to pull something, maybe a recorder, maybe even a weapon. But before he could act, Daniel's phone rang. He turned his back casually, answering in a low voice. Yes, they're here. Don't worry, I'll handle it. The blood drained from Jonathan's face. They're here. The sound of car doors slamming outside made Jonathan's stomach twist. Through the warehouse cracks, headlights flared. Dark shadows moved outside, at least 4, maybe more. Okoro cursed under his breath. He brought company. Johnathan glanced around. The only exit was the front door, and it was about to be blocked. The walls were thick, the windows chained shut. They were trapped. Daniel hung up and turned back to them, his grin wicked. Gentlemen, I'm afraid your little investigation ends tonight. Williams can't afford snoops digging into his files, and neither can I. The warehouse door burst open. 2 men in black suits stepped in, their eyes cold, their hands heavy with weapons. Behind them, more footsteps crunched. Okoro grabbed Jonathan's arm. Stay behind me. But Johnathan shook his head. No. If we run now, we lose everything. We need proof right here. Right now. His words surprised even him. But the fire in his chest was stronger than his fear. As the men approached, Okoro quickly flicked his wrist, revealing a small recorder in his palm. He pressed the button, and the red light blinked faintly. Keep him talking, Okoro whispered. Johnathan squared his shoulders and faced Daniel. So tell me, how much did Williams pay you for my father's idea? Enough to buy a conscience? Daniel laughed, spreading his arms like a preacher. Conscience? For $400 million? I sold your father's dreams for more than you could ever imagine. Williams will build empires from it. And me? I'll be his right hand when Donald's group collapses. Okoro's eyes widened. The confession was recorded. But one of the armed men noticed the faint blink of the recorder light. His eyes narrowed. Boss, the man said, pointing. Daniel's smile dropped. His hand shot forward, snatching the recorder. Clever, Okoro. Very clever, but not clever enough. He smashed the device against the floor, shattering it. Jonathan's hope cracked with it. At that moment, Jonathan's phone buzzed inside his pocket. Against his better judgment, he answered, shielding his mouth. Son, his father's voice whispered urgently. Security cameras near the warehouse picked up movement. Are you safe? No, Johnathan whispered back. Daniel brought men. We're trapped. There was silence. Then Donald's voice grew hard. Hold on, help is on the way. Johnathan slipped the phone back into his pocket, just as one of the men stepped forward. Time's up. Boss said no witnesses. The barrel of a gun lifted toward Jonathan's chest. Before the man could fire, Okoro moved with surprising speed for his age. He swung a metal pipe from the shadows, knocking the gun aside. The shot rang out, deafening in the enclosed space, shattering glass above them. "Run!" Okoro shouted. Chaos erupted. Johnathan grabbed the file from the ground, clutching it like life itself, and bolted toward the side of the warehouse. Daniel's men gave chase, bullets sparking against metal beams. Okoro ducked behind crates, returning blows with his pipe. He wasn't fast enough to beat them all, but he was fierce enough to buy Johnathan time. Johnathan spotted a small service hatch at the far wall. He rammed it with his shoulder until the rusty lock snapped. Cold night air rushed in. "Okoro, this way." But when he turned, Okoro was surrounded, holding his ground with blood on his face. "Go, boy," Okoro shouted. "Save your father's name." Tears stung Jonathan's eyes. He wanted to stay. He wanted to fight. But he knew the truth: if he fell here, Donald's group would die with him. With a broken cry, he slipped through the hatch and into the night. Outside, rain-soaked ground splashed under his shoes as he ran into the dark. Headlights blazed behind him. Engines roared to life. Daniel's men were giving chase. Johnathan clutched the file under his jacket, heart pounding like a drum. He ducked through alleys, climbed over fences, his body aching but his spirit alive with one thought: "I must not fail father again." Behind him, Daniel's voice shouted into the night: "You can't run forever, Johnathan. Without proof, you're nothing. You're still the security guard in a biscuit company." Johnathan stumbled, his chest heaving. The words cut deep, but they also burned fuel in his veins. He reached a crowded street where Danfo buses honked and vendors shouted. Blending into the chaos, he slipped into the throng, hiding the file under his shirt. The men's headlights swept the crowd, but the noise and movement swallowed him whole. For now, he was safe. Hours later, back at his father's mansion, Johnathan slammed the file onto the desk, his hands trembling. Donald looked at him with sharp eyes. "Where's Okoro?" the old man asked. Jonathan's throat closed. He had no answer, but before he could speak, the doorbell rang. A guard rushed in, pale-faced. "Sir, the police are here. They say they've come with evidence about Daniel." Johnathan and his father exchanged a stunned glance. What evidence? And why now? The storm was far from over. The mansion's heavy door creaked as the guards let the policemen inside. Their boots clapped against the marble floor, echoing through the hall like drums of war. At the front stood a stern officer with sharp eyes. His cap tilted low. He carried a sealed brown envelope in his hand. "Chief Donald Chikuma?" the officer asked formally. "Yes," Donald replied, his voice steady, though his eyes betrayed weariness. The officer nodded and turned slightly toward Johnathan. "We've come regarding your deputy, Mr. Daniel. New evidence has surfaced. We need your full cooperation." Jonathan's pulse quickened. "Evidence?" he asked. The officer opened the envelope and spread several documents across the polished table. The papers contained financial transactions, secret emails, and signatures. Each line screamed of betrayal. The deputy Daniel had been secretly transferring money into an offshore account, millions at a time, paid directly by Williams, the rival CEO. Donald's hand trembled slightly as he picked up one sheet. His face hardened. "So it's true. He sold me out." Johnathan leaned forward, scanning the emails. One message sent by Daniel to Williams read, "The proposal draft is attached. Donald will present it at the board tomorrow. You'll have the advantage if you move before him." Jonathan's jaw tightened. "He didn't just betray you, father. He handed Williams everything." The officer's tone grew firm. "We already have a warrant. Daniel was arrested less than an hour ago. He's in custody." Donald blinked in disbelief. "Arrested? That fast?" The officer nodded. "An anonymous tip gave us access to his cloud backups. Whoever sent it knew exactly where to dig. They claps to be. He's in Amar." Jonathan's mind flashed to Okoro, the investigator who risked his life. Could he have sent the tip before the ambush? Later that day, Johnathan and his father were invited to the police headquarters. The interrogation room smelled of sweat and stale air. Through the one-way glass, they watched Daniel sit slumped at a metal table, handcuffed, his once proud shoulders now sagging. When the officer entered, Daniel smirked weakly, though his eyes were dark. "You have nothing on me," he said. But his voice cracked. The officer dropped the stack of evidence in front of him. "We have everything. Emails, transactions, recordings from your phone. You've been feeding Williams' company secrets for over a year." Daniel's face paled as the papers spread out like a mirror, reflecting his sins. His hands shook. It wasn't like that. Williams promised me. Promised you what? Johnathan burst into the room before his father could stop him. His anger boiled over. Promised you a seat beside him while you destroyed the man who trusted you. While you almost ruined my family's name. Daniel looked up, his eyes wide. You don't understand, Johnathan. I was tired of being second, always in your father's shadow, always overlooked. Williams saw me. He valued me. Donald stepped forward, his voice heavy with betrayal. I valued you like a son, Daniel. I gave you food at my table, trusted you with my empire. And this is how you repay me? Daniel's lips trembled. He lowered his head, finally broken. I made a mistake. The officer cut in coldly. A mistake worth 40 years in prison. Unless you cooperate. The silence in the room was sharp. Within days, Daniel's confession unraveled everything. He admitted how he sold Donald's business idea, a digital trading platform, to Williams for a fraction of its worth. He detailed secret meetings, stolen documents, and even the names of insiders Williams bribed. Armed with the confession, the court moved quickly. The case drew national attention. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire rival stole idea in corporate betrayal. Donald Chukwuma strikes back with proof against Williams Group." Inside the Lagos High Court, the gallery overflowed with reporters, investors, and curious spectators. Johnathan sat beside his father, watching as lawyers presented evidence. The projector lit up the stolen files, the stolen designs, all traced back to Daniel and Williams. Williams, once untouchable, sat stiff in his tailored suit, beads of sweat glistening on his forehead. He tried to deny it, but Daniel's signed confession sealed his fate. At the end of the week-long trial, the judge's gavel cracked like thunder. Williams and his accomplice Daniel are hereby charged with corporate theft, conspiracy, and fraud. The defendants are sentenced to pay restitution of $400 million to Donald's group and return the stolen intellectual property immediately. Failure to comply will result in 40 years imprisonment. The courtroom erupted. Cameras flashed. Some investors gasped. Others cheered. Johnathan's chest swelled with pride as he looked at his father. Donald's eyes glistened. His empire was alive again. The victory sent shockwaves across the business world. Investors who once abandoned Donald's group came rushing back. Contracts were reinstated. Phones rang with new deals. But the real story was Johnathan. It was his courage to return home, his relentless pursuit of the truth, and his willingness to risk his life that turned the tide. The board of directors, once skeptical, praised him openly. At a private dinner with key investors, one man raised a glass. To Johnathan Chukwuma, the son who restored his father's crown. Chief Donald smiled, placing a proud hand on his son's shoulder. From today, he is no longer just my son. He is the future of Donald's group. The announcement was made official days later. Johnathan was named the new CEO. The company shares transferred to his control, making him a billionaire overnight. Meanwhile, across town, Sophia's golden dream crumbled like sand. Her $10 million disappeared faster than she could count it. She believed she had discovered a secret formula to always win bets. She began to stake higher amounts, hundreds of thousands at a time. At first, she won small sums, but greed whispered in her ear, "Why settle for small wins when you can chase 100 million?" She gambled recklessly, each loss burning deeper holes. When her winnings dried up, she sold the mansion she had bought so proudly. She walked into the bank with swollen eyes and trembling hands, convinced that one final bet would bring her back. But luck had turned its back. The final slip failed. Her account ran dry. Sophia, who once stood in designer gowns, now packed her belongings into nylon bags. She rented a small, leaking room on the outskirts of Lagos, far from the glitter she once flaunted. Each night, she stared at the cracked ceiling and whispered, "How did I lose everything?" Then, one morning, her phone buzzed. The news flashed across the screen. Donald's group revived Johnathan Chukwuma, announced as new CEO. Sophia dropped the phone. Her hands shook. Her tears blurred the words. "Johnathan? The same man I threw out? The man I called bad luck? He is now a billionaire?" Her chest tightened. Her pride shattered. For the first time in years, she realized what she had lost. The very next morning, Sophia wrapped herself in a faded scarf and took a bus into the city. When Johnathan's convoy of black SUVs rolled into the headquarters of Donald's group, she stood by the gates, clutching her bag, waving desperately. "Johnathan," she cried, tears streaming down her face. "Please, forgive me." The guards moved to push her away. But Johnathan's eyes locked with hers from the tinted window. The car slowed. The door handle shifted. Would he open it? Or would he let her drown in the pool of her own regret? The convoy stopped at the tall glass headquarters of Donald's group. Employees stood outside, applauding as their new CEO arrived. Cameras flashed, recording the moment. But the cheers softened when a broken voice pierced the air. "Johnathan." Sophia stood there. Her wrapper faded, her hair tied in a rough scarf. Her slippers were worn thin. Her eyes, once proud, once filled with the fire of arrogance, were now red with tears. The guards moved quickly. "Madam, step aside." But Johnathan raised his hand. The door opened, and he stepped out, his dark blue suit gleaming under the Lagos sun. For a heartbeat, the world froze. Sophia dropped to her knees on the pavement. "Please, forgive me." Her voice cracked. "I lost everything. The money is gone. The house is gone. I was blind. I thought wealth made me powerful, but I was wrong. Please, take me back. Don't let me die in shame." The crowd murmured. Cameras clicked. Everyone waited for Johnathan's answer. Johnathan's heart ached as he looked at her. Memories rushed back, the nights they shared one loaf of bread, the times she held his hand in the dark, whispering that they would rise together. But the image of her throwing his bag into the street replayed too, cutting deep. He stepped closer, his voice calm but strong. "Sophia, when you won 10 million, I thought our suffering had ended. I rushed home, ready to dream with you, but you threw me out like trash. You said I was your past. You closed the door on our vows." Sophia sobbed harder. "I was foolish. I let greed poison me. Please, Johnathan, I have nothing now. You are the only one who can save me." Johnathan sighed, the weight of the crowd heavy on his shoulders. "I forgave you a long time ago, Sophia. That is why I never asked about you. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. The choices you made brought you here." She reached for his leg, clinging to his trousers. "Please, don't abandon me. Give me one more chance." For a moment, silence hung like a knife. Then Johnathan gently stepped back. "I cannot be your husband again," he said softly. "But I will not let you starve. Tomorrow, you will begin work in this company as a senior cleaner. You will earn your pay with dignity. And every day you walk through these doors, you will remember what pride cost you." The crowd gasped. Some pitied her. Others nodded in approval. Sophia bowed her head, ashamed but grateful. "Thank you," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. From that day, Sophia wore the green uniform of the cleaning staff. She scrubbed floors, while Johnathan, flanked by security, walked past in suits worth more than her old bets. Each time she saw him, tears welled in her eyes. Her pain deepened when she discovered who now stood beside him. Monica, her former friend, the same woman who once advised her to throw him out. Monica, now graceful and successful, worked as the company's accountant. Johnathan and Monica spent long hours together, reviewing contracts, building strategies, and laughing softly at old memories. Sophia watched from a distance, her heart breaking. One quiet night, at a garden bar lit by lanterns, Johnathan knelt on one knee before Monica. A small crowd gathered as he opened a velvet box. "Monica," he said, his voice trembling but firm, "you stood by me when I was broken. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Monica's eyes. She covered her mouth, then nodded. "Yes." The crowd erupted in cheers. Johnathan slid the diamond ring onto her finger as Monica wept with joy. From the shadows, Sophia stood watching, her heart shattering into pieces. She cried silently, blaming herself for letting her pride and greed destroy what she once had. 2 months later, Lagos buzzed with excitement. The wedding of Johnathan Chukwuma, CEO of Donald's Group, was the event of the year. Golden drapes lined the grand hall, chandeliers sparkled like stars, and dignitaries filled every seat. Chief Donald, dressed in flowing agbada, held his son's arm proudly as he walked him down the aisle. Monica, radiant in her white gown, glowed with happiness. As they exchanged vows, Donald raised his voice for all to hear. "Today, my son not only found love again, but he restored our name. He is my pride, my heir, the man who will carry this empire forward. The crowd erupted in applause. Sophia, seated far at the back, cried uncontrollably. She had been given permission to attend as a staff member, but each word from Donald felt like salt on her wounds. She remembered the day she had thrown Johnathan out and realized she had thrown out her destiny too. 1 year later, the Chukuma mansion was filled with joy again. Monica, now glowing with motherhood, cradled 2 baby boys twins named Johnson and Nelson. Johnathan kissed her forehead gently, pride shining in his eyes. Chief Donald lifted the twins high. "The legacy continues," he declared, his voice booming with joy. The family celebrated, surrounded by laughter, music, and love. The empire that had almost been destroyed now stood taller than ever. Meanwhile, Sophia continued her work as a cleaner in the company. Each morning she polished the floors. Each evening she left silently, her heart heavy with regret. She often paused by the giant glass wall of the headquarters, staring at Johnathan's office on the top floor. She would whisper, "That could have been me," then return to her mop. But Johnathan never looked down with hate, only pity. Life had turned full circle. Sophia had gambled away not just her money, but her marriage, her dignity, and her future. Johnathan, the man she once called bad luck, had risen to heights she could never touch again. From a biscuit factory security guard to a billionaire CEO, Johnathan's story became one of Lagos's most powerful tales of resilience and grace. And every time he walked into his office, Sophia's bowed figure in the corner stood as a living reminder of what pride, greed, and betrayal could cost. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.